There are moments in life when silence feels heavier than words, moments when you bend your knees in prayer, but the heavens appear locked. You whisper, you cry, you plead, yet only the echo of your own voice answers you back. It is in these hours of stillness that the human heart trembles, because silence can feel like abandonment. We are creatures of sound, of touch, of response. When we cry, we long to be heard. When we ask, we long to receive. When we hurt, we long to be healed. But sometimes silence lingers, and in that silence, we begin to ask questions that pierce deeper than the pain itself. Am I seen? Am I loved? Am I forgotten? Have you been there? Perhaps even now, as you hear these words, you feel the ache of unanswered prayers. Perhaps you are holding on to a dream that has not come to pass. Perhaps you have lost someone or something that you thought you could never live without. The silence of God is not a comfortable place. It shakes us, it breaks us. But it is in this very silence that something eternal is forged, because silence is not absence. It is the sacred soil where destiny takes root. The weight of waiting, human beings are not patient by nature. We measure time by clocks, calendars, deadlines. We want progress, results, movement. But the language of heaven is not measured in seconds or years. It is measured in purpose. Waiting feels like punishment, but often it is preparation. The oak tree is hidden inside the acorn. The butterfly is trapped in the cocoon. The child of promise is carried in the womb of time. We cannot see it. We cannot touch it. And because of that, waiting feels unbearable. But waiting is the furnace. Where faith is tested, it is in waiting that we discover who we are, because anyone can believe when blessings flow like rivers. Anyone can sing when joy fills the room. But what happens when you must stand in silence? What happens when your prayers echo against the walls of your heart, unanswered? It is here, in the waiting, that your soul is revealed. The ache of comparison, when life denies you something you long for, the pain grows sharper when others possess it. The barren heart aches most when surrounded by abundance. The lonely soul feels its emptiness more deeply in the presence of laughter. Comparison is a cruel tormentor. It whispers, "Look at them, and look at you." It steals joy from what you have and magnifies what you lack. Yet comparison is an illusion. You do not see the hidden pain behind another's smile. You do not hear the silent cries behind another's success. Every soul carries burdens unseen, and still, when you sit in silence with your own emptiness, it feels as though the world is full while you remain empty. This is the place Hannah knew well. This is the place many of us know. It is the place of tears. The kind of tears that fall not once but daily. The kind of tears that carve rivers in the soul. But it is here, in this sacred emptiness, that a strange miracle begins. Desire becomes prayer. Prayer becomes surrender, and surrender opens the door to destiny. The hidden work of pain is not meaningless. Though it feels cruel, though it feels unbearable, pain is often the chisel that shapes us. We do not ask for it, yet it arrives, uninvited. We do not welcome it, yet it takes a seat at the table of our lives. But pain does something no comfort can do. It awakens us. It strips away illusions. It forces us to confront the fragile, fleeting nature of all things. The human heart does not grow in times of ease. It grows in the soil of suffering, for every scar holds a story, every wound holds a lesson, and every tear waters the ground for future joy. This is not to glorify pain. Pain is real. Pain is heavy. But pain is also a teacher that whispers, "You are stronger than you think. You are deeper than you know. You are capable of surviving what you once thought impossible." Hannah knew this pain, the pain of absence, the pain of ridicule, the pain of silence. But through her pain, something greater was being prepared. The eternal whisper in the silence, in the waiting, in the ache of comparison, in the sting of pain. There is a whisper, not loud, not forceful, but steady. It is the whisper of God. I see you, I hear you, I am with you. This whisper does not always change the situation immediately. The child may not yet come. The healing may not yet arrive. The door may not yet open, but the whisper changes you. It gives you strength to rise again. It gives you courage to hope again. It gives you peace to endure another day. The whisper of God is enough to carry you through the silence of God. A question for the soul. So let me ask you this. What silence are you living through right now? What unanswered prayer weighs on your heart? What emptiness haunts your nights? Do not run from it, do not bury it, do not numb it, bring it into the light, name it, hold it, and then, like Hannah, pour it out before the Lord, because there is power in unspoken pain. There is beauty in broken prayers. There is healing in surrendered tears, the beginning of the journey. And so we begin the story of Hannah, not as a tale from ancient pages, but as a mirror of our own lives. Her tears are our tears. Her silence is our silence. Her prayer is our prayer. But what makes Hannah's story remarkable is not simply that she suffered. It is that she did not let her suffering define her. She transformed her pain into prayer. She transformed her sorrow into surrender. And through her surrender, destiny was born. Her story begins in weeping, but it ends in song, and so shall yours. The quiet house of Ramah in the hill country of Ephraim, in a town called Ramah, lived a woman named Hannah. Her home was not poor. Her husband Elkanah was a man of standing, faithful to the traditions of Israel. He journeyed every year to Shiloh to worship and offer sacrifices to the Lord Almighty. To the eyes of neighbors, Hannah's life may have seemed whole. She had a home. She had food. She had a husband who loved her. But one wound remained, a wound no comfort could heal. Hannah had no children. In her culture, this was more than sorrow. It was a shadow that clung to her name. For in those days, children were not only a blessing, but also a sign of honor, a symbol of one's future, the proof of fruitfulness. Without them, a woman carried an invisible mark, as if heaven itself had withheld its favor. And though her husband's love was tender, the silence of her womb was deafening. Elkanah's divided love. Elkanah loved Hannah deeply. He gave her the best portion whenever sacrifices were made. He spoke to her gently, asking, "Why are you weeping? Why won't you eat? Am I not more to you than 10 sons?" But even love, however sincere, could not fill the hollow place in Hannah's heart. For love can comfort, but it cannot always cure. Elkanah's words were kind, yet they did not erase her longing. For a woman who yearns for a child, nothing else can substitute that ache. And Elkanah, though loving, was also divided. For he had another wife, Peninnah. The rival Peninnah bore many children. Her house rang with laughter, with the footsteps of little ones running through the courtyard. She was fertile, fruitful, envied by other women, but Peninnah's heart was sharp. She saw Hannah's sorrow, and instead of kindness, she gave cruelty. Year after year, Peninnah provoked her, reminding her of what she lacked. Cruel words cut deeper than any blade. It was not enough that Hannah bore her own grief. Peninnah poured salt upon her wound. And so, every feast day, every journey to the temple became not a time of joy, but of sorrow. While others celebrated blessings, Hannah carried only silence. While others lifted songs of thanksgiving, Hannah's voice trembled with tears. The cruelty of comparison pressed upon her spirit. She could not escape it, the loneliness of a wounded soul. Loneliness does not always come from being alone. Sometimes it comes from being misunderstood. Hannah was not without people. She was not without affection. But who could truly understand the emptiness she felt? Even her husband's love, faithful though imperfect, could not enter the silent chambers of her grief. This is the loneliness of the wounded soul, to sit at a table full of laughter and feel the heaviness of your own tears, to walk among the blessed and feel yourself cursed, to speak yet remain unheard, to pray yet remain unanswered. Hannah lived here, in this fragile place between love and sorrow, hope and despair. The cultural weight of barrenness. We must understand. In Hannah's world, barrenness was not only personal, it was public. A woman's worth was tied to her ability to bring forth life. Without children, she bore not just private grief, but public shame. Every whispered conversation in the village reminded her. Every glance, every question, every silence was heavy with unspoken judgment. It was not simply that she longed for a child. It was that without one, her very identity felt diminished. This is a pain many know even today, for though our cultures may change, the weight of unmet expectations remains. Society still measures worth by achievement, by status, by milestones reached, and those who live in delay or absence feel the sting of being less than. Hannah bore this weight daily, yet she bore it with a quiet strength, though her heart wept. A portrait of silent strength. There is something profound in Hannah's character, even before her prayer is recorded. She endured ridicule without striking back. She carried shame without letting bitterness consume her. She bore sorrow, yet did not let it harden into hatred. Her silence was not weakness, it was endurance. It was the resilience of a soul that chooses dignity over vengeance. We must pause and see her clearly, not just as a barren woman, not just as a rivaled wife, not just as a figure in scripture, but as a human soul, strong, aching, enduring. How many today are like Hannah, living lives that seem whole to the outside eye, but within, a private grief consumes them? How many smile outwardly while their hearts silently bleed? How many carry themselves with grace while inside they wrestle with emptiness? Hannah's story begins not in triumph but in tears, and yet her tears are not wasted, for in her weakness, strength was being formed. The yearly pilgrimage, every year, the family went up to Shiloh, to the house of the Lord. Every year, sacrifices were offered, prayers were spoken, rituals were kept. But for Hannah, every journey was a reminder, every feast was an echo of absence. While others rejoiced in the fruit of their lives, she sat with empty hands. Picture her there, sitting quietly while Peninnah's children laugh and play. Picture her face, calm on the outside, but within, a storm. Picture her tears, falling silently into her meal, until at last she refuses to eat at all. This was not simply an annual journey. It was an annual wound reopened, and yet Hannah went. She did not abandon the temple. She did not forsake the Lord, though she did not understand his silence. Even in pain, she kept walking. Even in tears, she kept showing up, and that is faith. Not the absence of sorrow, but the courage to keep moving in the presence of it, the silent battle. Within every person carries a battle unseen. For Hannah, it was not simply about a child. It was about worth. It was about purpose. It was about identity. To be barren in body often feels like being barren in soul. To be empty in one area makes us question our worth in every area. This was Hannah's struggle. She was loved, but she felt unworthy. She was cherished, but she felt broken. She was present, but she felt invisible, and yet, deep within, a flame remained. The flame of hope. Though faint, though flickering, though nearly extinguished, it did not go out. This is what makes Hannah's story universal. For all of us, in our own way, carry a silent battle, and all of us cling, even if barely, to the faint hope that one day the silence will break. Transition to the prayer. This is where her story leads us, to the temple, to the place where her sorrow would become surrender. But before we enter that sacred moment, we must pause and remember this. Hannah's greatness was not in her miracle. It was in her endurance. It was in her ability to live through the pain, year after year, without letting it destroy her. For strength is not measured by what you gain, but by what you endure until the gaining comes. And so, with tear-stained cheeks and a weary soul, Hannah rose once more. She walked to the temple and she began to pray. The breaking point. There comes a moment when silence can no longer be carried quietly, a moment when sorrow grows too heavy for the human frame, a moment when tears are not enough, when the heart itself must pour out. Hannah reached that moment. Year after year she had endured. She had smiled politely, though mocked. She had eaten quietly, though her soul starved. She had walked faithfully to the temple, though her prayers returned unanswered. But this year was different. This year her silence broke. She rose from the table. Her eyes swollen, her heart raw, she walked into the presence of the Lord. The air was thick with the smell of offerings, the sound of priests moving through ritual. But Hannah did not come to perform a ritual. She came to bleed her soul. To silent prayer. Her lips moved, but no sound came. Words formed, but they were too fragile to escape her mouth. Only God could hear them. To the eyes of Eli the priest, it seemed foolishness. He looked at her and thought she was drunk, rambling nonsense in the house of God. But this was no drunkenness. This was desperation. This was agony turned into intercession. This was grief turned into surrender. How often the prayers that matter most are misunderstood by others. The deepest cries of the soul rarely fit into polished sentences. They come as stammering whispers, half-formed groans, unspoken sighs. The world may see madness, but heaven sees honesty. Her words. Within, what did Hannah pray? Scripture gives us a glimpse. Lord Almighty, if you will only look on your servant's misery and remember me, and not forget your servant but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life. But behind those words were countless unspoken cries. Imagine her heart. Lord, why me? Why this emptiness? Why the shame? Do you not see the years of ridicule? Do you not hear the laughter of my rival? Do you not feel the heaviness of my nights? I have no voice left but this. I have no strength left but tears, and so I bring you not polished prayers, but the fragments of my soul. Her prayer was not bargaining, it was surrender. It was the handing over of her dream, even before it was fulfilled. If you give me a son, he will not be mine. He will be yours. My joy will become my sacrifice. This is not the way of human hearts. We ask to keep. But Hannah asked to release. The priest's misjudgment, Eli, watching her lips move, mistook her anguish for drunkenness. How long will you stay drunk? Put away your wine. What a wound this must have been, to be misjudged even in the holiest moment of your life, to be accused when all you carry is brokenness. But Hannah did not lash out. She did not defend herself with anger. She spoke with dignity. Not so, my Lord. I'm a woman who is deeply troubled. I have not been drinking wine or beer. I was pouring out my soul to the Lord. Do not take your servant for a wicked woman. I have been praying here out of my great anguish and grief. How often are we misjudged in our pain? How often do others mistake our tears for weakness, our silence for pride, our cries for madness? Yet Hannah teaches us this. Do not let misunderstanding steal your prayer. Even if the world does not see you rightly, God sees you truly. The release prayer is not always about changing circumstances. Sometimes it is about changing hearts. In the very act of pouring out her soul, Hannah found release. The burden, though still present, felt lighter. The sorrow, though not erased, felt heard. And that is the mystery of prayer. The world outside may remain the same, but the world within shifts. Eli moved at last, blessed her. Go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant you what you have asked of him. And Hannah left different. She had no child in her arms, no visible answer, no sign that her prayer was fulfilled. Yet Scripture tells us her face was no longer downcast. This is the power of prayer. Not the instant change of circumstances, but the quiet transformation of the heart. A universal cry. Hannah's cry is not hers alone. It is the cry of every soul that has longed and waited and felt the ache of silence. It is the cry of the parent who cannot conceive, the cry of the widow who longs for comfort, the cry of the wanderer who seeks belonging, the cry of the broken who plead for healing. Hannah's cry is your cry. It is my cry. It is the universal cry of humanity. Lord, see me. Remember me. Do not forget me. The courage to be honest. There is a strange courage in Hannah's prayer. The courage to be raw. The courage to be unfiltered. The courage to bring anguish into the holy. We often polish our prayers, shaping them into neat sentences. We hide our tears, fearing they dishonor God. But Hannah reminds us, God does not want your perfection. He wants your truth. The tears you shed in silence are themselves a prayer. The groans too deep for words are themselves an offering. The sighs of your weary soul are themselves worship. To pray honestly is to love God enough to bring him your real self, not the self you think he wants, but the self you actually are. The turning point of surrender. What makes Hannah's prayer powerful is not simply that it was answered. It is that it was surrendered. She did not ask to hoard. She asked to release. She did not say, give me a son so that I will be satisfied. She said, give me a son and I will give him back to you. This is a higher kind of prayer. Not the prayer of possession, but the prayer of trust. Not the prayer that clings, but the prayer that opens hands. To surrender what you long for most is no small thing. It is the death of ego, the death of control, the death of pride. But it is also the birth of freedom, for when you give God what you love most, you discover that it was never truly yours to begin with. The invitation to us. And so Hannah's cry becomes an invitation. What is your anguish? What is your silent prayer? What is the dream you hold so tightly that it both gives you life and drains it? Can you bring it to God, not to demand, but to surrender? Can you open your hands, even as your heart aches, and say, if you give it, I will give it back. It was always yours. This is the place of true freedom. This is the prayer that transforms sorrow into song, transition to hope. Hannah left the temple with nothing in her hands, yet peace in her heart. Her womb was still empty, her rival still mocked, her circumstances unchanged. But within her something shifted, because when you pour out your soul to God, the weight no longer crushes you. When you surrender your deepest longing, your soul breathes again. And though the answer had not yet come, Hannah carried within her the assurance that she had been heard, and being heard is the beginning of healing. The sacred vow in the dim light of the temple, through trembling lips and silent tears, Hannah spoke a vow that would change her life and the course of Israel's history. Lord Almighty, if you will only look on your servant's misery and remember me and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life. These words were not recited like a ritual. They were not polished or rehearsed. They were the overflow of a breaking heart, a vow born in the furnace of anguish. But this vow was more than desperation. It was surrender. The difference between bargaining and surrender. Many of us, in moments of pain, cry out to God with bargains. If you heal me, I will serve you. If you open this door, I will be faithful. If you fix this situation, I will obey you. But bargaining places conditions on faith. It assumes that devotion is payment for blessing. It says, I will give, but only if you give first. Hannah's prayer was different. She was not saying, if you bless me, then I will finally honor you. She was saying, if you bless me, the blessing itself is not mine, it is yours. This is the essence of surrender. It is not a transaction, it is an offering. It is the recognition that what we long for most never truly belonged to us. If you look on my misery. Notice how Hannah begins. She does not hide her pain. She does not mask her misery with polite words. She says plainly, Lord, look on my misery. There is beauty in this honesty. Because surrender does not begin with denial. It begins with truth. To surrender, you must first name your sorrow. You cannot give to God what you refuse to acknowledge. So Hannah lays it bare. She does not say, I am fine. She does not say, it doesn't hurt. She says, look at my misery, see it, know it, I bring it to you. And this is where true prayer begins, not in hiding, but in revealing. Remember me. Her next words pierce the silence. Remember me, not simply give me, but see me, do not forget me, hold me in your heart. The deepest cry of every human soul is not for gifts, but for recognition. More than anything, we long to be remembered, not forgotten, not invisible, not overlooked. In our grief, what hurts most is not always the loss itself, but the feeling that no one notices, that no one remembers, that no one cares. Hannah prays the most universal prayer, remember me. And the God who remembers the sparrow, the God who counts the hairs of your head, the God who holds the universe in his hand, he remembers. Give me a son. Hannah's request is simple, clear, unashamed. Give me a son. She does not mask her desire with vague language. She names it, she owns it, she asks. Sometimes, in our fear of disappointment, we pray small prayers. We water down our desires, afraid to hope too deeply. But Hannah asks boldly. There is a paradox here. Surrender does not mean you stop asking. It means you ask with open hands. It means you pour out your true desire while releasing your need to control the outcome. Hannah wanted a son, and she was not ashamed to say it. And neither should you be ashamed to bring your true desires before God. I will give him back. And here lies the heart of the vow. If you give me a son, I will give him back to you. This is not bargaining. This is consecration. This is recognition that the gift belongs not to the receiver, but to the giver. It is one thing to long for a blessing. It is another to lay it back at the feet of God. This is the posture of surrender. Whatever you entrust to me, I will not cling to. I will not hoard. I will not idolize. I will give it back to you. And here is the paradox of the kingdom. Whatever you release, God multiplies. Whatever you cling to slips through your fingers. Surrender in our lives. Hannah's vow speaks across centuries to us. Because we too carry dreams, desires, longings, and we too must learn the courage of surrender. For some, it is a relationship, a person you love deeply but must release to God's care. To say, Lord, if you bless me with love, I will not cling to it in fear. I will hold it loosely, knowing it belongs first to you. For others, it is a career, a calling, a dream. To say, Lord, if you open the door, if you give me the platform, if you grant me success, I will not worship it. I will not let it define me. I will return it to you. For some, it is healing from grief, the memory of a loved one gone too soon, the ache of absence that lingers in every room. To say, Lord, even this person I loved most was first yours. I release them into your eternity, and I release my need to carry what only you can hold. This is the hardest prayer we will ever pray, but it is also the most freeing, the freedom of open hands. Imagine holding something precious in your hands. Your grip tightens. You clutch it, fearing it will slip away. But the tighter you hold, the more it cuts, the more it suffocates. Now imagine opening your hands. The object may still rest there, but it is free, and you are free. This is what surrender feels like. Not the absence of desire, but the release of control. Not the erasure of longing, but the offering of it. Hannah discovered that freedom not in the fulfillment of her desire, but in the releasing of it. And so can you. Surrender is not defeat. We often confuse surrender with defeat. To surrender feels like giving up. It feels like losing. It feels like weakness. But in the kingdom of God, surrender is not defeat, it is victory. Because in surrender, you place your life into the hands of the one who cannot fail. When you surrender, you do not lose. You gain peace. You gain strength. You gain the assurance that what is meant for you will never be taken, and what is not meant for you was never truly yours. Hannah's surrender was not her end. It was her beginning, the lesson of Hannah's vow. So what does her vow teach us? Name your sorrow honestly. God cannot heal what you will not reveal. Cry out to be remembered. Your soul longs not only for blessing, but for recognition. God gives both. Ask boldly for what you desire. Do not shrink your prayers out of fear. God honors honesty. Release what you receive. Hold it loosely. Offer it back. Trust it to the one who gave it. This is the rhythm of surrender. Receive with gratitude. Release with trust. Repeat with peace. The path ahead. When Hannah prayed this prayer, nothing around her had changed. Her rivals still mocked. Her womb was still empty. Her circumstances were still bleak, but something within her shifted. She left no longer downcast, because surrender turns sorrow into song, even before the miracle comes. And so we leave Hannah here in the temple with her vow echoing in eternity, a vow of honesty, a vow of hope, a vow of surrender. What she did not yet know was that God had heard, and in time God would remember. Her womb would open, her son would be born, and through that son a nation would be guided. But before the miracle, there was surrender, and that is where every miracle truly begins. The turning of the page there. Are certain sentences in Scripture that seem so simple, yet they carry the weight of eternity. One of them is this: and the Lord remembered Hannah. Just 5 words, easily passed over. But within them the story shifts. The silence of heaven breaks, the tide turns, the womb opens, the impossible becomes reality. These words are not merely about biology, they are about destiny. They are about the moment when the unseen hand of God touches the hidden places of human sorrow. The Lord remembered. It is the most healing sentence a broken soul could ever hear. What does it mean to be remembered by God? To human ears, remembering is about the mind. We forget, then recall. We misplace, then recover. But when Scripture says God remembers, it does not mean He once forgot. The eternal cannot forget. His memory does not fade. His attention does not wander. So what does it mean? It means that God acts. It means that what was once in waiting now comes into being. It means that the appointed time has arrived. The hidden seed breaks forth. The silent prayer is answered. To be remembered by God is to be touched by His timing. Not before, not after, but in the precise moment when all things align. The mystery of divine timing. This is perhaps the hardest lesson of faith. God's timing is not ours. We want immediacy. We want now. But heaven operates on eternity's clock. There is purpose in the delay. Every year of Hannah's waiting was not wasted. It was forming her. It was deepening her. It was preparing the womb of her soul as much as the womb of her body. The child she longed for was no ordinary child. He would be a prophet, a judge, a leader who would shape Israel's destiny. Such a calling required not just any mother, but a mother forged in the furnace of prayer, humility, and surrender. Had Samuel been born earlier, perhaps Hannah would not have made the vow. Perhaps the consecration would not have been so complete. Perhaps the destiny would not have been prepared. God's delay was not denial. It was design, the quiet miracle. And so the day came. After years of emptiness, Hannah felt within her body what she had longed for, the quickening of life, the flutter of movement, the hidden miracle in the secret place. There were no trumpets, no fanfare, no announcements written in the sky, just the quiet, steady unfolding of a long-awaited answer. This is often how God works. Miracles rarely arrive with noise. They come quietly, like dawn breaking after a long night, and in the quiet, Hannah knew, I am remembered. The joy of being seen. Joy is never as sweet as when it comes after sorrow. The laughter of the once barren is a deeper laughter. The song of the once broken is a fuller song. When Hannah conceived, it was not simply a mother's joy. It was the joy of a soul who knew she had not been forgotten. Her rivals' mocking no longer mattered. The years of tears were redeemed. The silence of heaven had turned into a song of remembrance. The weight of a promise. Hannah's joy over Samuel's birth was profound. Her womb, once empty, now carried life. Her heart, once heavy with sorrow, now overflowed with gratitude. Yet, in the midst of her joy, the memory of her vow returned. I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life. This was not a vow whispered lightly in sorrow. It was a covenant of the heart, made in the furnace of anguish. And now, fulfillment required her courage. To release what we love most is one of life's hardest tests. Even the sweetest blessing can become a burden if it binds us too tightly. And so, Hannah prepared herself to let go, to surrender not only her pain, but also her joy. The journey to Shiloh, the day came to take Samuel to the temple at Shiloh. Every step of the journey must have been heavy with emotion. The child she had prayed for, nurtured and cherished would leave her arms, not for strangers, but for God. Imagine her walking the dusty path. Samuel in her arms, cooing, laughing, unaware of the sacrifice unfolding around him. The wind whispers through the hills, her heart pounds, a mixture of sorrow, trust, and anticipation. It is in these moments, when we hold tightly and yet prepare to release, that faith is most tested, the silent battle. Within Hannah must have wrestled with countless thoughts. How will I bear to see him go? Will my heart shatter? Will he remember me? What if I regret this? All human instincts scream to cling, to protect, to hold. And yet, she knew that obedience and surrender are acts of love greater than possession. This is the paradox of faith. True love does not cling. True devotion does not bind. True trust is willing to let go. Arrival at the temple. When Hannah arrived at Shiloh, she entered the house of the Lord with Samuel in her arms. The priests were there, rituals ongoing, incense rising, and there she laid her child before Eli the priest. No hesitation, no bargaining, no complaint, just pure surrender. Here is the boy I prayed for, she must have whispered. He is yours, Lord. Take him, guide him, use him as you will. Every mother's instinct fights such moments. Yet Hannah demonstrates a courage that transcends instinct, a courage rooted in faith and humility. The pain of letting go, releasing something we love, feels like losing a part of ourselves. Every step back is a silent tear. Every farewell echoes within. Every heartbeat cries out, "He is mine." But surrender is the paradox of the spiritual life. We do not lose what we release. We gain freedom, purpose, and divine blessing. Hannah's pain was real. Her arms emptying must have felt unbearable. Yet her heart soared with the knowledge that Samuel was safe, consecrated and chosen for something greater than her alone could imagine. The moral lesson of release. Hannah's story teaches us an essential truth. Let go of what you cannot control. The more tightly we cling to outcomes, the more we suffer. Trust in divine purpose. Samuel was not hers to hold, he belonged to God. What God entrusts to you is never lost when given back. Sacrifice deepens joy. The deeper the letting go, the richer the blessing. Modern life offers us many Samuels to release, relationships we cannot control, careers or opportunities that demand faith, dreams or ambitions that require surrender to a higher plan, loved ones who must walk their own path. Hannah shows us that release is not defeat. It is devotion. It is obedience. It is the soil from which miracles grow. The strength of faith in action. Observe Hannah here. She is neither frantic nor regretful. She is composed, serene, and resolute. This is faith in action. Faith is not merely waiting. Faith is walking into the unknown, carrying. Trust as your only companion. She could not see the future. She did not know what Samuel would become, but she knew God's promise was faithful. We too are called to such faith. We release what we love most, not knowing the outcome, yet trusting the hands that guide us. The blessing of consecration. Eli, the priest, witnessed Hannah's act. He saw her love and devotion, her humility and courage, and he blessed her. May the Lord grant what you have asked him. The blessing was not only for her son, but for Hannah herself. The act of surrender became a source of spiritual empowerment. Pain transformed into purpose, loss transformed into legacy, and so we learn. Surrender does not diminish us. It elevates us. Reflections on modern life. Hannah's example speaks to every human heart. There are losses we must face without bitterness. There are blessings we must release with trust. There are hopes that require patience and obedience. Mother who gives a child to God reflects every person who relinquishes control and entrusts life to a higher power. Her courage is ours to emulate, a quiet triumph. When Hannah left Shiloh that day, her arms were lighter, but her spirit was stronger. She had kept her vow, she had obeyed, she had trusted. The child she loved was now in God's care, consecrated for greatness. And Hannah knew a deep, ineffable peace. This is the essence of surrender. It is both joy and sorrow, loss and gain, grief and triumph. Through her act, she teaches us that life's deepest blessings often arrive only after we learn to let go. The echo of her faith, Hannah's faith, did not end with the release of Samuel. It resonated across generations. It was a story of courage, surrender, and trust that reminds us pain is preparation, waiting is sacred, surrender is strength. And it calls us today. Whatever you are holding too tightly, whatever you fear to release, do so with faith. Trust the one who remembers, who hears, who acts in his time. For in release we find freedom, in obedience we find peace, and in trust, we discover that what is truly ours can never be lost. The child of promise Samuel grew, not just in stature, but in purpose. He was more than a son returned to God. He was a symbol of faith fulfilled. From the moment he entered the temple, it was clear that his life would be extraordinary. Every child born of answered prayer carries the weight of hope, not just for themselves, but for all who prayed with them. Samuel's steps echoed the faith of a mother who had trusted completely. Every word he spoke, every action he took was a living testament to the power of surrender. Hannah's song of praise. When Samuel was weaned, Hannah's heart could no longer contain her joy. She sang a song of gratitude, a song of remembrance, a song that transcended her personal story and spoke to every soul who suffers and hopes. My heart rejoices in the Lord. My horn is exalted in the Lord. I rejoice in your salvation. Her words were simple yet profound. They were not just praise for the gift of a child, but praise for the faithfulness of God. For every tear she had shed, every year she had endured, had been transformed into song. The moral lesson of gratitude. Hannah's Song teaches us that gratitude is not only for the fulfillment of desire, it is a recognition of the journey, of the waiting, the pain, the tears, and the surrender. Gratitude arises when we acknowledge how far we have come, how deeply we have trusted, and how faithfully God has acted in His timing. Even before a blessing arrives, surrender prepares the heart to rejoice. And after the blessing comes, gratitude magnifies it, turning a personal victory into a universal lesson. The prophetic vision Hannah also saw Samuel's destiny beyond her arms. Through her prayer and devotion, she glimpsed the role he would play. A prophet to guide Israel, a voice of truth, a servant of God's will. Every act of surrender in our lives has ripples far beyond our understanding. When we release what we love most, we allow God to use it for purposes greater than our imagination. Her vision reminds us, the gifts we hold are never just for us. They are part of a larger story, a story of healing, redemption, and hope for others. A lesson for today, Hannah's journey from longing to surrender to joy speaks to us across time. Trust in timing. God's timing is perfect, even when the weight feels unbearable. Surrender brings freedom. True faith is letting go, even of what we hold most dearly. Gratitude transforms pain. Joy is not just the arrival of blessing, but the recognition of divine faithfulness along the way. Legacy is born in obedience. What we consecrate today can shape lives tomorrow far beyond our vision. Her story is not just about Hannah or Samuel. It is about every heart that longs, suffers, prays, and ultimately trusts. The eternal echo as Hannah sang, the temple walls carried her song, the hills of Ramah echoed her voice, and heaven itself rejoiced. Her journey, from silence to tears, from pain to prayer, from longing to surrender, became a song that would inspire generations. And her life teaches us this. The deepest sorrow can become the source of the greatest joy. The most painful waiting can prepare the soul for purpose, and every act of surrender opens the door for miracles beyond our imagining. Take a moment and breathe. What is your Samuel? What is the blessing, the dream, the longing, or the hope that you have been carrying? Hannah's example calls us to hold it with open hands, to trust, and to believe that what is given will be returned in the fullness of God's purpose. And when the blessing comes, may your heart rise in song. May your gratitude echo across the valleys of waiting, and may your life testify to the truth that God remembers, He acts, and He fulfills what He has promised. The echo of Hannah's journey, Hannah's story, is ancient, yet timeless. Her tears, her prayers, her surrender, they speak to the human heart across millennia. We live in a world that often measures success by achievements, wealth, or recognition. We chase milestones, deadlines, and fleeting satisfaction, believing these will fill the emptiness inside. Yet Hannah's journey reminds us that true fulfillment comes not from what we hold, but from what we release. Her story begins in sorrow, moves through prayer, and culminates in surrender. And in surrender, she found peace, joy, and purpose. Lesson 1. Name your pain. Honestly, Hannah teaches us that the first step toward healing is honesty. She did not hide her grief. She did not pretend everything was fine. How often do we carry our pain silently, fearing judgment or misunderstanding? We mask sorrow with smiles and bury longing under routines. Hannah's courage invites us to speak our truth, not always aloud, but at least in prayer, reflection, or journaling. To name the wound is to begin to heal it. To acknowledge the emptiness is to create space for hope. Lesson 2. Pray without pretending. Hannah's prayer was raw, unfiltered, and honest. She poured out her soul before God, not caring what others thought. In modern life, we often filter our cries. We shape prayers to sound polite, acceptable, or spiritual. We hide our doubts, fears, and desires. Hannah reminds us God wants authenticity, not perfection. He listens to the broken, the weary, and the desperate. Our prayers do not have to be eloquent, they must be sincere. Lesson 3. Surrender is strength, perhaps. The hardest lesson is surrender. Hannah prayed for a child, but promised to give him back to God. Her joy was intertwined with obedience. Her desire was accompanied by release. Modern parallels are everywhere. Relationships that cannot be controlled. Careers or opportunities that demand trust. Dreams and ambitions that require patience. We cling to what we love, thinking it will give us security. Hannah teaches us the paradox. True strength comes not from holding on, but from letting go. Lesson 4. Waiting is not wasted. Years of silence and mockery preceded Hannah's answered prayer. Those years were not wasted. They were preparation. In our lives, we face delays, setbacks, and unfulfilled desires. We ask, why now? Why not sooner? The story of Hannah shows us that waiting can deepen our faith, sharpen our character, and ready us for destiny. The waiting period is the soil in which miracles grow. Lesson 5. Joy is rooted in gratitude. When Samuel was born, Hannah rejoiced, not only for the gift itself, but for the journey that led to it. Gratitude transforms pain into praise. It shifts our perspective from loss to lessons, from sorrow to strength. We may not yet have our Samuel, but we can cultivate joy by recognizing the small victories, the unseen growth, and the whispers of hope in our lives. Lesson 6. Every blessing is a responsibility. Hannah's vow reminds us that blessings are never just for ourselves. We are entrusted with gifts to nurture, steward, and sometimes release. In modern life, this can mean helping others with our talents, sharing wisdom born from struggle, giving back what we receive, whether it be time, resources, or love. The blessing multiplies when we view it as service rather than possession. Lesson 7. Faith transforms. Waiting into action, Hannah's story is not passive. She did not give up. She did not resign herself to sorrow. She acted through prayer, perseverance, and patience. Waiting without faith breeds despair. Faith without action breeds stagnation. Hannah's example: act faithfully in the present, trust in the unseen, and leave the outcome to God. Lesson 8. Your story becomes inspiration. Hannah's tears became a song. Her surrender became a legacy. Her child became a prophet. Our struggles, when met with courage and trust, can ripple beyond ourselves. The pain we endure can inspire, heal, and guide others. Every listener, every viewer, every reader can see their own story reflected in Hannah. And in seeing, they find hope, guidance, and comfort. Lesson 9. The power of persistent prayer. Hannah prayed year after year, unrelenting. She did not allow mockery, doubt, or delay to break her devotion. Persistence is a quiet, powerful act. It is not stubbornness, but steadfastness in faith. It is showing up even when it seems no one notices, even when the world is silent, even when heaven seems distant. Hannah's persistence demonstrates that miracles are often born from steadfast hearts. Lesson 10. Healing comes through. Release. Finally, the greatest lesson. Healing comes through surrender. Hannah released her son, her longing, her pain, and found freedom, peace, and joy. In modern life, our Samuels may be relationships, ambitions, or memories. Letting go does not mean giving up. It means trusting the process, believing in divine timing, and allowing life to unfold. Healing is never passive. It is intentional. We participate by surrendering control, yet embracing hope. Closing meditation pause. For a moment, take a deep breath. Reflect on your own Hannah moments. What longing weighs on your heart? What silent tears have you carried? What dream do you clutch too tightly? Imagine releasing it, placing it into divine care, trusting that the universe, or God, remembers you. Feel the weight lift slightly. Notice the peace in surrender. Hear the echo of Hannah's song. My heart rejoices in the Lord. My horn is exalted in the Lord. I rejoice in your salvation. Let her story remind you, your pain has purpose. Your waiting has meaning. Your surrender has power. And your faith can transform sorrow into song. Even in the darkest silence, miracles are quietly taking shape. Even in the heaviest grief, hope is quietly growing. Even in the moments of letting go, life is quietly arranging blessings beyond imagination. Hannah's journey was ancient, but its lessons are eternal. Your journey may be yours alone, yet it carries the same truths. Faith, surrender, persistence, and gratitude will lead you to your own song. If Hannah's story touched your heart, and you long for more stories that heal, inspire, and guide the soul, subscribe and join us on this journey. Here, every tear, every prayer, and every lesson is honored. Let your spirit be lifted, one story at a time.